everyone. Okay, so let me just introduce myself. My name is Grace. I am currently a first year college student at Caltech, California Institute of Technology. I'm actually from Toronto, and while here I went to Bayview Secondary School and I participated in their sort of IB program. So in terms of right now at Caltech, I'm currently majoring in bioengineering. However, I am trying to get either a minor or a second major in English. Speaking of English, that's why we are here today. So as you might know, recently due to COVID-19, there's been a lot of impact on schools of all levels all across North America and actually across the world. Partly because of that, I've actually been sent home from university to take my next term as online classes from home. And I know a lot of you out there, especially middle schoolers and high schoolers, have also been dealing with the same problem with that. You might have to take a lot of your classes online until June or possibly for even longer, maybe even next year. So in terms of online classes, what I've felt often is that it is a lot easier to learn certain subjects online compared to other subjects. For example, it might be somewhat easier to learn things like math or science online. However, English is one subject that is very particularly difficult to learn from online. A large part just due to the fact that it requires a lot of discussion with your teachers and with your students, and able to for you to really be able to enrich what you are doing. So that is why I'm here today. So while I was in high school, I actually did a lot of initiatives promoting English learning. For example, I've taught I've led small groups in terms of critical reading classes, and right now I actually do a form of writing edits while at school. So now that I'm back, I thought it would be a great idea to give back to you guys and just share a lot of the experiences that I gained, both in terms of my high school English and also during college English. So today, one of the things that I actually really want to focus about, and it is the most important skill that I learned in English throughout my 4 years of high school, is actually how to write a commentary, and specifically how to write commentaries and essays under time pressure. So if you are familiar with certain standardized testings, are probably some of the most common standardized tests that people do take include AP, Advanced Placement, IB, International Baccalaureate, the SAT test, and the ACT test, as well as maybe SAT subject tests. So since I applied to the US, I've actually taken all 4 of these. I've taken IB higher level English, I've taken AP language and composition, and I've taken both the SAT and the ACT, both with essay. So the thing about these exams that are different from what you might do during normal high school English or in middle school English is that you have a time limit, obviously, because it is a standardized test, and also that you don't get the testing materials in advance. You go to the exam center and they give you the exam paper, and you that's for the first time that you know what you will be writing about, and then you have a given amount of time to write everything that you need to write. So first I would like to talk about the IB English curriculum, because that is the one that I'm probably most familiar with. So with IB, what my school did is we actually split up into 2 years. So we did some English for 1 semester in 11th grade, and then 2 semesters of English in 12th grade. The different aspects of IB English is first that we had a works in translation essay. That is the only thing for IB that we actually were able to take home and write with no time limit. And then after that, in 12th grade, we had an oral presentation, and then an oral commentary, and then a written commentary. So as you can see, IB English is very commentary heavy, with 2 of the major parts, including the May exam, being a commentary. So I would like to talk a lot more about commentary writing. This is also something that applies to the SAT essay, which is also very similar to a commentary. And also with the AP exam, you have to write 3 pieces of writing, one of which is a argumentative essay based on 6 to 7 sources. One is a commentary of you analyzing a text that they give you, and one is another persuasive essay based on your own ideas. Alright, so first I would like to talk about what is the fundamental difference between a commentary and an essay. So with an essay, usually we refer to, when we think of essays, we think about argumentative essays, which has a thesis, right? That is the backbone of the essay. You have to have a very good thesis. And the thesis represents what your stance is on an issue, and also what are your main points that you are using to support your argument. So a lot of you have probably worked with the sandwich model or something similar like that with an essay, where you have an introduction that starts out by introducing your topic, and then you say what your stance is, and then you list your arguments, and then you have your filling, which is the 3 body arguments, and then you have a conclusion in which you restate your thesis and then connect that to the real world larger issue, right? So the thing in class, how an essay works, is that you will usually be given a guiding question. So that actually makes it a lot easier, because when you have a question, whether you're writing an essay about a book or just about a very separate real-world argument, you have some sort of indication a lot of the times. It's very easy to figure out what you are trying to argue. For example, a lot of essays on books, just through class discussions, you should be able to know what your teachers would want you to say, right? For example, one of the guiding questions I've had for an essay in IB is that what ideas does this author present about the power that authoritarian figures have over nature and have over the common person? So from that, it's quite obvious that the teacher doesn't want you to prove that authoritarian figures have power over nature and over the common person, and it's just up to you to prove that. And generally, because when you're writing an essay about a book, it is about a longer work, which means you can use a lot more things regarding plot, character development, setting, symbolism, themes from the book. Those are the main most important things that you would write about in an essay, right? The commentary, on the other hand, how a commentary works is generally you are given a piece of text that you may have seen before, but you will not know what the text will be before you get it. So I say you might have seen it before because for IB, the oral commentary, you will be given usually a poem or a piece of prose that you have worked on in class, but it is while you are at the exam center, you draw it out of an envelope. You are given one randomly, so you don't know in advance exactly which piece it's going to be. And then for the final IB exam or the AP exam or the SAT, you obviously don't have any clue what your text is going to be. So commentary requires you to think a lot more on the spot, because you don't have the text beforehand, and you can't prep possible topics beforehand. So that makes it a lot more difficult. Also, because you are given it on the spot, it obviously has to be a very short piece of writing. If it is a poem, a lot of the times you might get the whole poem, but if it is prose, usually it will only be an excerpt, like maybe a 1-page excerpt out of a novel or out of a much longer short story. Therefore, you're not getting the full picture. Especially with prose, because you don't get the full picture, you obviously often can't talk about the theme. Rather than being something that's a lot more thematic, like an essay thesis would be, your commentary might sometimes be a lot more about what techniques and what effects the author is creating. For example, sometimes it might just be an atmosphere that the author creates. Sometimes it might be certain tensions or certain just ideas that are brought up, or even contrasts, major contrasts between 2 people or 2 things. That would generally be what your central assertion is with a commentary. And finally, because you're given a very limited selection and it is right in front of you, the teacher or the grader will be expecting you to directly draw from the text, meaning you will have to use quotations and you will have to look at it more deeply. For example, sometimes you might even have to look at specific words that the author uses, or if it's a poem, you might have to want to look at even just counting the meter of a poem. So you have to look at really the more specifics of it and focus on the writer's technique rather than being able to draw from larger patterns because you simply can't see those patterns. And also a side note is that because it's a commentary, you usually don't get a guiding question in the same way, so you have to synthesize a central assertion all by yourself. You don't get a question from the teacher or the examiner. Sometimes during the early preparatory stages, your teacher will give you some guiding questions to think about. However, on the actual exams, there will never be any sort of guide of them telling you what the poem is about. You have to read it and very quickly figure out what it is about, and then figure out how you can analyze how the author builds to that central assertion. So in my coming talks, obviously the commentary is something that a lot of people are a lot less familiar with, and due to the time restrictive manner, it is something that gives a lot of people a lot of anxiety. I remember when I was prepping for commentaries, I would often be very stressed because it is a very limited time, and if I just happen to have a bad day, that could very severely affect my grade and how well I do on it. So it is something that is stressful, but there are certain ways and certain tips and strategies as to how to write one that can be applied across a lot of different commentaries, and once you get the hang of it, you don't need to be so stressed about it, and if you're a lot confident, that improves how you do as well. Another reason why I think it would be a good idea for you to sort of learn the difference between an essay and a commentary is for those of you who want to apply to US colleges. It does make a difference in terms of whether you should take the SAT or the ACT. The SAT essay is, the format is that they give you a piece of writing, generally nonfiction, and then you write something similar to a commentary in which you comment on the techniques that the author uses to build their case. The ACT, on the other hand, they give you an argumentative essay topic, and then you are expected to write a persuasive topic using your own. So obviously one is a lot more commentary focused, and the one is a lot more essay focused. So it is really a good idea for you to get some practice with both commentaries and essays and just figure out which one is most suited to you. And if you are doing the IB program or the AP program, obviously you will have to write both. Alright, before we end this video, I would just like to say that I will be posting more videos to come, and a lot of them will be about my tips and strategies for writing commentaries, reading some example commentaries that I've written, or me delivering sample oral commentaries similar to the ones I gave for the IB oral commentary. Besides that, I actually do, as I mentioned at the beginning, edit essays. I've been doing that since the beginning of September, the beginning of this school year, and I can do a large variety. I can do fiction, like creative writing, I can do nonfiction, I can do essays for school, and I've done application essays for both US summer programs and US universities because I have a lot of experience with both of that. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I will put more details here, both in the video and also in the description. Thank you.